superintendent search, I think that it's imperative that as a board and as a GCBS community, we work to uphold our brand of being of high quality and doing things in excellence. And so I wanted to, as a reminder to our governance team, because we do have newer members to the governance team. One of our governance team norms, and actually one of our policies, states that when it comes to speaking with the media, that the board chair would represent the board in communicating with the media. I know when we met last month to announce that we were move forward with seeking a new superintendent, Mr. Gasper, that you did in fact interact with the media. I did ask you if you were aware of the policy and the norm that as chair, I should be the face of the board and conversing with the media. And you did state that you were aware, but that you chose to converse with the media regardless. And so I will say that's a bit concerning, and wanted to take this opportunity to hear from you more around that decision.
So thank you, Dr. Simmons. I appreciate your concern, and I think this could kind of bode to a bigger picture of transparency with board members that hold and operate official public Facebook pages and post their comments and their decisions and their feedback that can easily be grabbed by the media or any media outlet or screenshot by constituents. And so I think we need to really come to a decision as to how the board members manage their time on social media, as well as, because I personally see no difference in what I said to the media, which was essentially regurgitating my comments, and other board members posting their full speeches like Dr. Teresa did on her Facebook page. It can easily be transpired and sent to the media. So I'd love to have this discussion further and see if we can come to a conclusion on how we all operate as a board.
Thank you, Mr. Gasper, and I want to be clear. When I saw the media, I left the room knowing that you were the voice of our board to be able to share that. After we all made our statements, I posted my statement. I think other people have the prerogative to share what they want to share and how they vote on their own personal social media. And I also think that we have an opportunity to discuss our board norms in general, not just this particular one, but the other one. And I think we have that on our March 8th meeting agenda for our training to be able to discuss this. I do support our, the leadership of Dr. Simmons and what you're requesting, and as part of the board norms. I do think we need to really examine it, because I think it's very different than what Dr. Simmons is raising than what we put on social media. For me, I just see it differently, and it is what it is. I think we can have further discussion around it, because there's so many other complications and nuances that I think we need to discuss around the board norms in general.
Right, I fully agree. I don't think this is the place to have this discussion. I think we need to convene like we were in our board training and further discuss how we're going to kind of move forward with how other board members post official comments on their social media pages that can easily be screenshot and sent to the media for dissemination and distribution. So I end my comments there.
And I would say, just from being chair last year and trying to emphasize a norm discussion throughout the entire year at most of our training, and getting very little support from the rest of the board. In fact, comments in terms of, this isn't a priority, we don't need to, we've got other bigger fish to fry, that I find this curiously ironic that a board member would be called out publicly, which has not happened since and clearly we've had norms infractions, I'll say, along the way, and nobody's ever called anyone out publicly. And these two board members haven't even officially had the opportunity. I've not heard you ask them where they stand on the boards or on the norms. We haven't had a board discussion as a governance team, which we can do on our first training on March 8th. So I find it curious. I agree with Mr. Gasper. I don't think this is how this should have been handled. I think a private conversation, any of us who have been in a leadership position know that the first time you have an issue with someone who might do something that maybe you took umbrage with, you would pull them aside privately and you would have that discussion. Then you would move on from there. So I know that we've had plenty of norms that haven't been adhered to. And again, we haven't had the discussion even as a new governance team together by ourselves or in a training scenario to even get input on whether we should change our norms and then all agree to it as this governing team, which is one of our norms. So anyway,
we're running short on time. And so to wrap this up, number one, there was a private discussion had. But number two, and more importantly, this is not a matter of simply a norm. This is a board policy. Yeah, this is a board policy that the chair represents the board in talking with the media. There's a difference between policy and norm.
Mr. Gasper did not represent the board when he talked to the media. He represented Mr. Gasper, which goes to the norm.
So if we look to the policy, and as long as I've been on this board and as I'm aware, this governance team has abided by the policy as the chair being the one to interact with the media. So if we're now saying that we're not abiding by policy, I find huge issue with that. We expect our students to follow policy, our community members to follow policy. So I stand by my concern with the action that took place. And I do look forward to talking further about not only the norms, but making sure that we all understand and abide by our policies.
I mean, I object to this public scolding, Dr. Simmons. And no, it is. It is. No.
For you to share.
You initiated this discussion in the public setting, even though you and I had a private discussion. I object to this. I made my statements about how the board members are free to post on their public pages. Both Dr. Therese and Ms. Stone made statements. What's any different than me making a statement? You didn't review the policies when you were elected chair. You left us hanging. Okay, like Steve Knudsen said, it's your job as the chair to come out and say, these are our board norms, these are our policies. I spoke on the behalf of myself, regurgitating my comments I made in the public session. That's it. I put no opinions behind that. We need to move on in the interest of time. You even said it. Let's end this conversation. We'll meet behind closed doors.
Yes, let's end the conversation.
In training and have a discussion about
this.
The
conversation was not initiated to scold. It was initiated to hear more about your rationale.
But
and where we have landed is that we will continue the discussion at our governance team training. I just wanted to reiterate that this was not simply a norm, but it is a policy, and I look forward to us discussing it further.
So our private conversation wasn't enough, apparently. You had to bring it in the public?
So I want to share, as board chair twice, right? I do believe that there are nuances, and this is there are nuances around how we communicate. And when we share information as an individual private citizen, that's very different than speaking on behalf of the entire board. And I think when we have a conversation around our superintendent, which is one of the most critical, biggest, most important communication points, that point, I think this is a nuance, right? Is leading in that conversation, is that voice that is the chair. But you all have had that conversation, so now it is, how do we move forward with conversations around the board norms and us coming to an agreement on what that expectation looks like. But I want to say that I do respect the leadership, and I think the nuance is that this was such a big message that first point of communication needed to come from our board chair, and again, which is why I left the room, because I knew that was something that again, nuanced, but it's just it's a big deal.
I'm being nudged
very
to move us forward. I appreciate the team for engaging in what could be considered a difficult conversation. It's a part of the work, and I appreciate you all for engaging. I was able to learn more about why you did what you did, and look forward to us continuing the conversation there. If there are no other comments or questions, this concludes our work session.